Well, hello, folks. Welcome to the IWCT Show. India A successfully defended their Women's Asia Cup Rising Stars, crown. They defeated Bangladesh A by 46 runs in a very commanding final. I know a lot of Indian fans are grappling with the sadness that the men's team, lost to South Africa, but we had happiness at the other end, with our emerging team doing incredibly well. For the uninitiated, this team was led by Radha Yadav. They had quite the interesting, tournament in that way. Shajin and I were talking off record about the kind of start they had and how things eventually took flight and how they registered such a commandable win. In this episode, we'll be breaking down their performance in the final, key turning points, and just look at their campaign at large itself and what a tournament like this means for the growth of Asian cricket itself. So, Shajin, first thoughts on the tournament itself, India's performance, just happy stuff at the moment?
Yeah, hi Neha. Happy to be back here. So, talking about the Rising Stars Asia Cup itself, it's a good tournament to have for all these Asian countries, especially other countries other than India. For India, they do get to play a lot of matches, but since they don't have enough programs, it's always nice to have that Asia Cup. But again, and India were expected to win the tournament without much sweat, considering how dominant they are in the Asian region. So they were hopeful of defending that title, and they did that, but not the way we thought they would. But again, conditions played a lot of conditions were a lot of factor in that, considering how slow the pitches were and how slow the whole thing was. It was difficult to score, have that high scoring matches. So again, it's more about developing the players more than the results. So all countries have something had something to look forward to, and some of them did really well. And it's not necessary that all the players were rising stars. Some of the experienced players were also getting some valuable practice ahead of the season. Maybe they will come back to the senior sides. Some of the Sri Lankan players, Bangladesh players, already senior players were there. India also had a couple of centrally contracted players. So that was all interesting to see. But it's more of a development or more than the results. India were expected to win that, and other than that, the thing that mostly stood out how India came back after that defeat against UAE.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there. But Shajin, let's probably start off with the final itself, right? I mean, how convincing, right, was their title defense? We spoke about the start they had. They lost to UAE, but then coming back, winning those back-to-back matches. And in this final itself, right, playing against Bangladesh A, mind you, this team had a lot of stars, who have played for the senior team itself. Just what did you make of the final and a competitive one, you felt?
Yeah, final it looked like that at the start of the innings because Bangladesh had a great tournament with the ball at least, and then they were unbeaten going into the final. India had that loss against UAE, but still they were the best batting team in the tournament after UAE crashed out in the first round. So it was more like India's batting was Bangladesh bowling, and the conditions also played a lot of part in that. That they struggled to get going at the start of the innings with Runda getting out early, and they were reduced to 44-4 at in 8.1 overs, and it looked like it will be a competitive one if Bangladesh could restrict India to 100, but again, like in the last time in the 2023 one, where India scored against 127 or something and went by 30, and it was similar. There, Vrunda Dinesh and Kanika, who just scored 30s here, experience of Tejal Hasabnis and Radha Yadav came to the fore at 44-4 in 8.1 overs, and they took the game out of. You can say that on in those conditions, 134 was a really good score, and Bangladesh batters just couldn't come to the party and chase those scores down.
Yeah, it's actually going to get to that itself because India A chose to bat first. They posted 134 for 7. Shajin, again, did you feel that total was competitive? Because at one stage they were 44 for 4, as you rightly pointed out, but that Tejal Hasabnis knock itself, the partnership with skipper Radha Yadav, just proving to be a very defining passage of play in that match.
Yeah, they were very smart with their choices once the score was reduced to 44-4. When they decided that they will start with a lot of singles against the spinners, and then they took on the pacers when Bangladesh brought them. They hit two sixes against one of the pacers, and Yada did the same with 1 6 against one of the other pacers. So maybe Bangladesh missed a trick by bowling a lot of pace bowling options. They had three pace bowling options, bowling around 8 overs, I think. Whereas India picked only one pacer in Saima Thakur and bowled only 2 overs, 18 overs of spin. So India read the conditions really well, and they decided that the conditions are going to get slower, and they decided to bat first, even though all their wins before that came in chases. So that was an interesting decision. and it proved to be right at the end. So, especially the composure Radha Yadav and Tejal Hasabnis showed in the middle was one of the most interesting things to see in India's batting innings. Even though Faima Khatun really bowled really well for Bangladesh, rest of the bowlers India really was smart considering how they took on the paces especially.
Yeah, valid point there because Bangladesh A, right, they sort of stayed alive through Fahima Khatun itself, that 4 wicket spell. Again, Shajin, what do you really like about her spell, right? Sort of ensure that India did recover well tactically after that phase as well, but just her spell, how amazing was that?
Yeah, again, she has shown it for Bangladesh in the past. These are the kind of conditions she likes bowling. Again, she's not a great turner of the ball. She's more about accuracy and lot of pace variations and all those sort of things. And again, India struggled at the start considering how slow the wickets were, and at the end also they lost a couple of wickets against her. So she was standout bowler for the Bangladesh throughout the tournament with 10 wickets to her name. So that was not surprising. Again, rest of the spin bowlers have been bowling really well for Bangladesh, and for some reason they used a lot of pace at the end of the innings and gave away that in one during that one phase where they gave away 37 runs in 3 overs. That proved to be crucial, and that gave that momentum for Radha Yadav and Tejal Hasabnis to take the score to more than 130. And once they did that, that was beyond Bangladesh unless they had a great power play, and they didn't have that.
Yeah, they truly didn't have that one, right? Because India too, defending 135. I think the way they just went about their bowling, right? Especially in the power play. Like Prema Rawat really stood out, right? Her 3 foot 12 completely shut the chase down right at the start. Shajin again just impressed with how Prema Rawat continues to grow from strength to strength and just continues to make a case for herself.
Yeah, again, leg spin is something that's rare in Indian cricket. Although they have a lot of domestic leg spinners, they haven't been playing for India A or India senior sets a lot in the recent past. Considering India use a lot of finger spinners, even in this side they have a lot of finger spinners, especially four finger spinners played in this game as well, other than Prema Rawat. But Prema Rawat has been the standout bowler throughout the series for India, considering how accurate she has been. She has been really accurate. She used her googly occasionally, but she has been really accurate with her leg breaks. And as long as the batters were in the disrupting her rhythm, she continued bowled in same areas, and Bangladesh couldn't do much. So that was something that we saw throughout the series. Only I think someone like Isha was tried to disrupt Indian spinners, but all the other Asian teams really struggled against India's spin attack.
Yeah, you could see how India is clearly, leaps above and beyond, other teams with regard to their spin department itself. And fair to say, Bangladesh never really built on partnerships. And it was a lot about how India was just doing so well with their bowling side of things. Actually, let's take a few comments from our live chat. Unknown nobody going on to say that disappointed by Anushka Sharma. Shajin, do you agree with the sentiment considering the kind of start that she had to the tournament and all the hype, right, because of the stuff that she had done in the WPL? Do you think it was sort of a mixed bag tournament for Anushka and we just sort of had a lot more expectations from her?
Yeah, she had a mixed bag of tournament, considering how talented she is and the WPL she had. But again, she's very young, and these are not the conditions where you can score a lot of runs unless you are scoring a lot of those runs in power play. How Isha Oza and Bunda Dinesh did. Anushka had a great start with that 47, but again, towards the end, she had tapered off. Again, these are slower conditions, and she couldn't really do those things she did in WPL. So maybe you can say that, but again, these players are more used to the one-day format. I can say that although they have on good batting conditions, they can still dominate the bowling in T20 format at this point. But again, going forward, we will be looking forward how they progress from here. So you can say that mixed bag of tournament for Anushka Sharma, but better things are expected from her.
Yeah, I agree with you because in spite of this sort of a tournament for her, she's still there, right, in the leading run getters chart. So due credit for how she went about her thing. Another comment from unknown nobody goes on to say that Brinda, Prema, Tanuja Kanwar, and Radha were massive positives. Shajin again agree with this. Again, the tournament turnaround really small, just a few matches that we can sort of assess, and the sample pool is again small. But agree with this that these were the massive positives.
Yeah, we already talked about India spinners, and these are conditions that suited for all the spinners. All spinners from all the sides have done really well. So again, yeah, Prema, Tanuja Kanwar, and Radha Yadav were really good. Especially Prema and Tanuja were really good with the ball, and Radha had that all-round performance both in the semi-final and the final and leading from the front. Again, it will be interesting to see how maybe they can make that progress back to the Indian side. Tanuja had a debut, T20 debut for India in the Asia Cup and didn't go that her way. And again, Radha Yadav is someone who has been around in and around Indian side for a long time, more than 100 wickets in T20 format. Again, the consistency with her bowling is something that has been missing, and that's why she almost always finds herself out of the T20 squad despite having more than 100 wickets. So it's positive, but again, his condition played a lot of part in that, and it will be interesting to see if India want to. We have been discussing about India's batting depth in the T20 side. Maybe if they want to increase their batting depth and go for someone like bowling all rounders in Radha Yadav. Well, Tanuja Kanwar scored that 34 in the first game. Again, she's a utility batter who can score a lot of runs at the back end of the innings. And again, she's a good left arm spinner. But considering how Vaishnavi Sharma and Sri Charni has already cemented her place as the number one left arm spinner, so it will be interesting to see if India want to increase their batting depth and go for someone like Radha or Tanuja as the second left arm spinner ahead of Vaishnavi Sharma, although it will be unfair on Vaishnavi. Considering Prema again, Prema is someone who is a great fielder who is terrific all around the field, and she can bat as well. She's not a power hitter like someone like Radha, but she can be a utility batter down the order. But leg spin is something India haven't had for a long time, considering after Prema Yadav's exit post the 2020 World Cup, and in between those, India she had it looked like people found how Poonam Yadav is her slow left arm, slow leg spin has been found out a little bit. But again, after that, India didn't really try leg spinner. They had Devika Vaidya for a bit, and then Asha Shobna had a few matches before she got injured. So it will be interesting to see if all these three will be in contention for India's squads going forward, be it in South Africa or during the T20 World Cup in India. Also, we haven't talked about Vrunda. Vrunda had a great, miserable WPL and she received a lot of criticism. But this is at this level and in domestic cricket, she has been doing really well. And it was nice to see she came back and she didn't curb her instinct and she went for those runs and she scored a lot of runs in the power play and she kept going and scoring 171 runs at 176 strike rate in these conditions is really remarkable. But again, the challenge will be for her to how to progress from there. Again, better bowling attacks and again in better batting condition and better bowling attacks, and it's something she struggled in the WPL. But again, it's that was just one season, and again, considering she's really talented and just like we talked about Anushka, she's one of those batters who has been rated really high, and it will be interesting to see how she progresses from here.
Yeah, and it's really refreshing to see that India's bench strength continues to develop, right? Having tournaments like this and performances of repute really does a world of good, right? Not just to the players' confidence, but also for the management when they decide to pick a squad too. Anu, nobody also goes on to say that Radha's never give up attitude definitely deserves an applause, right? Again, Shajin, let's talk about Radha Yadav and her captaincy itself, right? A lot of people were confused as to why was she a part of this rising, stars, right? Because she's already a bona fide legend in a way, right? You've won a, ODI World Cup. The senior team has done that in 2025. She's a part of that squad with the RCB, WPL 2026, and her leading this very young team. Okay, let's call it a mix of young and experienced team. Just what did you make of that selection call? Her being as a captain and her captaincy chops gives you a little bit of inspiration there that she has it in her.
Yeah, again, looking at all the squads, other than the three senior squads in UAE, Nepal, and Malaysia, all the squads were experienced players. There were a lot of experienced players. Faima Khatun leading in Bangladesh, and even Sri Lanka had a lot of senior players in their side. So that was expected. Rising Stars is just in the name. It's basically A squads playing against each other. So Radha Yadav led the side in Australia. So it's basically like a continuation of what happened in Australia, and she led recently well in Australia, winning that one day series. And so it was expected that there will be some of the senior players to guide the younger players at least. And I didn't have any problem with Radha and Tejal, considering they have that central contracts with India. And it's as if to say that they are still in the mix and they are expected to continue to perform this side. And Radha is someone who is known for her attitude of never giving up attitude. And these things are not an issue with her, be it her batting, bowling, or be it her batting or fielding. It's just that sometimes with her bowling, that inconsistency is that's why she is always finding herself out of India squad. But that's attitude and captaincy were remarkably very good, and she did that very well to come back, especially at that 44 for that was a matured innings, and that she showed in the WPL as well. So batting has really improved for Radha. Bowling, it will be remaining to see when how she does against better batting attacks.
Yeah, it'll be a challenge in that regard, and hopefully Radha can stand up and deliver too. We have another comment again from Unknown Nobody who goes on to say that I hope more from Minu Mani and Nandini Kashyap. Radha can be in the T20 squad in place of Deepti. Now, that's a very interesting thing to say. Shajin, agree. There's two statements here. One of expectations from Nandini and Minu, and the other one being Radha replacing Deepti. Do you think far-fetched a little bit there?
Yeah, we couldn't hope more from Nandini considering she got injured in the first game after bowling only 2 overs. Maybe if she was available for the death overs, maybe India could have pulled that game back against India. Unfortunately for her, she got injured at the worst possible, and she was replaced with Nikita Singh, and Nikita Singh again didn't play any game. So we couldn't see back of pacers more other than only Saima Thakur had all the games Saima Thakur did play, and Jintimani Kalita had a couple of games she didn't do much. So yeah, it was pace bowling attack. Didn't have much to do on these conditions, but it remarkably favored the spin bowlings. And yeah, you can say that Mindumani was expected to do a lot more considering how senior she has been in the India setup. She had good times in Australia for a couple of tours, and she has done well for the Delhi Capitals as well. So yeah, you can say that hope more from Mindumani, especially with the bat. With the ball, she was decent, and with the bat, she has been really disappointing. But it's again, we will have to see how many off spinners you can pick in these sides. So she will be down the pecking order considering Deepti Sharma, Shreyanka Patil, Sneha Rana is there. And going for a third left arm spinner in Radha Yadav ahead of Deepti will be unlikely again. Deepti Sharma is one of the senior players now. Even if her batting is not quite there in the T20 setup, unless they find a batting all rounder who can bowl or spin, or a bowling all-rounder who can bat a bit. There is no way Radha Yadav will be replacing Deepti Sharma. Radha Yadav can really come in those cards if they decide to bench someone like Vaishnavi Sharma, although it's no fault of Vaishnavi Sharma. She can really come in place of Vaishnavi Sharma. That's something maybe they can think about, considering how Radha did well in England the last time they toured.
Yeah, definitely interesting times for the management, right, to pick like what would be the ideal kind of combination they'd want to go ahead with. And one more comment, coming in from Unknown Nobody, that good to see BCCI, streaming domestic games, but sad for Karnataka women, who lost their match today. Yeah, completely agree with that. And do let us know, Unknown Nobody, in comments if you want us to do, live streams like this about the senior women's one day trophy itself. Unfortunately, mainstream media isn't doing any coverage of this, the clash with the men's T20 World Cup, not helping things. But yeah, there's a few of us, who are following. Shajin himself does, tweet a lot about the domestic side of things. But yeah, let us know, and great comment there. But zooming out a little bit, Shajin, let's just look at India A's campaign itself. When you look at the squad, right, overall, like we were talking off record, like just what did you make of it, right? So many names we thought would sort of make it to the squad but didn't. Led to a tinge of disappointment amongst fans, like hey, why aren't the likes of Shweta Sehrawat, Trisha, you have so many other names just not being included. And the squad itself, right, just gave you an impression that yeah, there are youngsters, but there's like a lot of experience too that reeks through this thing. So how is it exactly justifying like a rising stars selection itself? So I mean, what did you just make of the squad at large?
Yeah, again, it's about that balance. They want to reward those who perform in the domestic setup, but again, India needs some vision where they can find players who will go on to represent India, or at least go on to do well for India, and give good competitions to other players, or make it to at least the WPL side. And it seems like WPL and Indian domestic cricket are going in parallel ways, and they have no connection. We have already seen that with selections and non-selections of state sides and interzonal sides. So that's something that's interesting. Again, going to the India Air squad for the Rising Stars, I don't have any problem with them picking someone like Radha Yadav or Tejal Hasabnis, considering they are already centrally contracted players. So we have already talked about this. But some of the senior players, like maybe someone like Humaira Kasi, who had her chances. She's a stellar domestic performer, but considering how age might not be on her side, unfortunately. So, and India have a lot of young top order players in maybe Anushka Sharma, Jeet Risha, Shweta Sarawat, Vrunda Dinesh herself, and even Nikki Prasad, who has done really well in domestic and WPL. Maybe it could have been better if they thought that way about some of the players, and they picked too many bowling all rounders as well. Maybe if they could have picked an additional batter, maybe they could have done gone that way, considering how good Radha Yadav and Tanuja Kanwar are as bowlers, and they can contribute with bat as well. So maybe they could have picked an extra batter, and maybe they could have gone for someone like Vrunda Dinesh in the middle order, or Shweta Sarawat as the reserve wicket keeper, considering she has been keeping. But again, these are things they decide. I would like some continuation where Ragbi Bisht was part of the squad in Australia, and she did well in the first time she went in Australia. Second time she didn't do that well, but she still she's someone who can be uh, have we think of for the future and someone. But she has had her struggles in domestic cricket. Same goes for Trisha as well. She had her struggle. But recently she scored that 100 in the senior one day. So it's interesting that India have a lot of top order batters who has been really doing well in that, at least in the one day format. So it will be always interesting to see who they pick. And Anushka Sharma and Vrunda Dinesh have had their chances in this tournament, and they have done reasonably well. Anushka Sharma had done well, Vrunda Dinesh has done really well. So it's kind of disappointing that more Indian young batters were in there.
Yeah, and further just delving deeper into it, right? When you look at the team management itself, it felt like they were trying to back roles clearly, right? Especially with, say, the middle order anchors, the likes of Tejal Hasabnis, right? We've seen her be in and out of the senior team, most of the times warming the bench itself. And even the spin options that, they sort of wanted to opt for. Like, what did you make of that? Did you feel there's like a lot of role clarity, at least within the setup of the options chosen?
Yeah, once they find out after that first game, they when they realized that a lot of slow bowlers had a lot of help in the spinners had a lot of help in the all the matches. So after that, they decided that they will be giving a lot of opportunity for all the spinners. And so the spinners already were senior players, considering at least in the India setup with Minnomani, Tanuja, and Radha all played for India, and Prema Rawat has been part of the India squads before. So once they had that clarity about the surfaces, and it was easy, you still have to bowl really well, but it was easy for the spinners. And as far as pace bowling backup, I am a little bit disappointed, and especially that only Saima Thakur had that opportunity to play all the matches, and Nandini Sharma unfortunately got injured. So we still don't know who our best backup paces to the backup paces we have in the senior setup.
Yeah, because I think the pace battery would have really benefited, having someone like a Joshita Vijay, Titash Sadhu for that matter, Shabnam Shakil, right? All of them just seem to have disappeared from the scene entirely. But, valid point there that probably the pace stocks could have just gotten more opportunities. But I think a lot just boiled down to the conditions on offer and how spin friendly it was. Like most teams, sort of went in with a very spin heavy combination. And Shajin, again, just looking at India's campaign, like the matches that they played, they began with a loss to UAE, right? A close one there. Do you think that defeat sort of helped reset the team early in the tournament? There were a lot of learnings and takeaways, and that intent sort of, spilled over, and the execution in other matches really set them up well.
Yeah, to add one more point to the pace bowling thing. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of Indian pacers have been getting injured. Both Joshita and Tita Sadhu got injured, so they were not part of the squad. I don't know if even if they were not injured, they would have picked a lot of pacers in this squad of for those conditions. Maybe they could have picked someone like Shabnam ahead of Saima Thakur, because Saima Thakur already had her India debut, and you already have the experience of senior players like Dada to guide the bowling attack. So maybe they could have picked someone like Shabnam. Other than that, they didn't have a lot of room for pacers. And Jindimani Kalida also got all her opportunity only because Nandini Sharma got injured in the first game. So that was interesting. But going back to your other point, what was the point you were talking about?
About India's campaign itself, right? That loss to UAE, and do you think they had
Yeah.
like a lot of learnings and takeaways?
Yeah, the coach Purva Desai and Radha Yadav were talking about her. They gave them a talk after the first game, after the first game. I think it was more about how they didn't find that easily adapted to the condition after batting first in that first game. Maybe they thought it was better suited batting condition. They went hard, a little bit hard too early, and ended up with a score of 130. And it was more about UAE having that firepower in each house, and once the score was limited to 130, and she could chase it down single-handedly, and she had support from someone like Samaira Dharmidarka. So that was you can say that was an eye opener, but these things can happen. You can have that bad day, but India are not expected. Even in the senior Asia Cup, whenever India lose a game, there are always questions: how can you lose to Asia side? But these Asian sides have been improving. Be it someone like Bangladesh, they have been bowling really well. They really bowled well in the whole tournament. Their fielding has been really good. Even in the final, they took a couple of good, great catches. And even in Sri Lanka had that great catch on the boundary. Tejal Hasabnis catch was taken on the boundary. Sri Lanka had that. So the spin bowling and fielding is something other teams also have, and these conditions suit them. So it's not that easy to dominate the other sides. And still, India had that 40 plus run in the final. But again, the loss against UAE was unexpected, but that gave them that eye opener to continue to dominate the tournament. Again, as I said, these tournaments are not really about results, and it's about the development of players.
Yeah, definitely, because it was a wake up call in some way or the other, right? Because after that, the team really bounced back. Wins against Pakistan A and Nepal A were quite dominant, and this meant, destiny was in their own hands. They sealed their place, for the semi final. Again, do you think like India really found their ideal rhythm here? Match winners stepping up and great signs overall?
Yeah, again, it's all conditions. You see, we already knew that these players can do it. I was more interested about how Indian young batters do, and Unda Dinesh has done really well in this tournament. And Anushka Sharma had a mixed bag of tournament, but she still stood that promise to grind out in the slower conditions. At least in the first game, she had that. And Tejal Hasabnis is someone who unfortunately didn't have a WPL contract so far, and she's someone who can be handy for any side with that number for number 5 position, because she has the power to hit sixes against both pacers and spinners. Although she might not start and go bang bang right from the start, but she can be useful for maybe some sides like RCB, where they struggle to have that batting lineup to at least in the top five, where they had Radha Yadav batting at five at some point. Maybe, or even UP Warriors, who have a lot of top order batters. Maybe Tejal Hasabnis is someone who can have that role in WPL at least. Again, she getting to bat at number five in the final really helped her. Other than that, she was coming with. So a lot of young Indian batters should try to bat in the middle order so that they can audition for, or so to speak, audition for WPL sides or even Indian side in that middle order. As we have been, we keep talking about India needing to find that sixth batting option in the T20I side.
Yeah, valid point there. And, courtesy these wins, India did, play that semi final against Sri Lanka A. Again, Shajin, did that performance feel like, hey, the team is peaking at the right time and there's no looking back, right? Because once you're in that winning momentum and, those wins are just under your belt, gives the team too, right? A lot of confidence.
Yeah, again, all the Indian matches other than the UAE ones, they for the same template. They will bowl first and get the team out cheaply and chase it down really fast. So in that way, I was really happy that they chose to bat first, even if the result didn't go their way. In the final, they chose to, so that we could see how the batters would have fared when they had to bat in certain way for the 20 overs. As far as spinners are concerned, again, we have been keep talking about other teams lack that firepower to score at least 130, 140 to put India under pressure when they were batting first. That's something that happened with both Nepal and Sri Lanka and even Pakistan. So Pakistan also really struggled with their batting, and Sri Lanka same goes with Sri Lanka, although they had a couple of good matches in the group stages. So considering all that, and also you can see now that you can see that Bangladesh are really challenging other sides to say that we are probably the now the number second best team in the Asian region. So and Pakistan, Sri Lanka will have their say when it comes to senior tournaments. But again, going by how they have been doing well in the international, be it in the qualifier and here, it's always nice to see Bangladesh has been really turning up for these tournaments and trying to at least challenge other sides and at least really challenge India in the final as well, at least with the ball.
Yeah, I think the kind of run that Bangladesh A also had, right, to the final was quite commendable in that way. And Shajin, just one question about India, right, with respect to the team combinations of the playing 11, right, that they went in with. We saw, right, at the top itself, there was like a little bit of mix and match there. Diya Yadav was there, then Nandini Kashyap was brought in, Brinda Dinesh was a constant itself. For you, just like the playing 11 throughout the tournament, like, were you pleased that this was the best they could do with the resources that they're taken in and the squad itself?
No, I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't stick to one. Once they decided that Humaira Kasi will open batting and she had her struggles in the first two games, then they brought in the other in the third game and she played only 3 4 balls and she got out. And I don't know what they made out of that. And then they just went to someone like Nandini Kashyap for the last two games. So I think it's more about they wanted to give everyone a chance. Other than Nikita Singh, all the players played at least one match. Considering Sonia Mandia also came in for the final, so it was interesting that they didn't want to stick with any, and also they once the players were failing, they didn't replace the players who scored runs. At least they had their opportunity, they had their success. They didn't replace those players. Maybe they wanted to win as well. So unfortunate that the other got only one innings to prove her mettle, and she didn't have the WPL also. We are yet to see her bat. Unfortunately, she got injured at the back end as well. So it will be interesting to see if they pick her again when going forward. So that will be something interesting to see. But only 4 5 matches are there, so and they had that 15 16 member squad, and they had to give opportunities to everyone. But unfortunately, that's the only problem or issue I had with the team selection, especially with the bat. Again, they kept changing the top order. Nandini Kashyap batted in the last 2 matches. Umaira Kasi played and the other player. At least they could have stuck with 3 matches for at least one of those players to make something, although they wanted to give chance to everyone. One of chances really didn't make any sense, especially with Nandini Kashyap already had her chances in Australia, and maybe they could have started have that continuation and have Nandini Kashyap open the batting from the right from the first game and then replace her. It didn't make any sense to have the other get only one game.
Yeah, it was an absolute shame, right? Because most of us just very confused as to what was the thinking and the rationale behind dropping a player just after like one game itself. Let's take a few comments here. Unknown Nobody goes on to say, I thought they chose India A for namesake. Maybe they all wanted to play, the senior one day cup. I mean, in all fairness, I think players would really prioritize, playing for the nation if given an opportunity. And the A series is a great way, right, to sort of throw your hat in the ring and remind the selectors that, hey, I'm good. You can actually keep me in contention for the senior level selections itself. And I think this was a question I saved for later, but sports fan going on to anyways asked that I always feel Asian level tournaments in women's cricket are more suited for exposure of subcontinent teams, other than India itself. Do you think that other teams had any gains from this? Shajin, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have already talked about this, considering how Bangladesh bowlers and their fielding has been really good. Batting is something again they have to adapt to these conditions. Slower conditions is something they play at back home as well, so it's not like unfamiliar conditions for them. But again, these are young batters who, other than Fahima Khatun, other batters did struggle. And as far as bowling concerned, I think their paces also did well. And other than in the final, they had that, and they had that second left arm spinner. She also did really well. So I think Bangladesh had more gains than other teams in this, including India, considering how they can build on that spin attack. They already have a potent spin attack in the senior side. So maybe they Bangladesh is one of the sides that had really gains, and even for Sri Lanka, Sachini Nisansala took 8 wickets, I think, if I'm not wrong, and and she can also challenge to have a place in the senior side that they are currently playing in West Indies. And considering these teams play a lot in these subcontinent conditions and even slower conditions, somewhere like West Indies or in this Malaysia, Thailand, or Nepal, or those conditions, these players can be handy. So I think other teams really did have some, even UAE, for although they did crash out of the first round. Maybe they could have had, if they had a lot of experience, maybe they could have tried to overtake Pakistan's net run rate, but they went hard, really hard, and bowled out cheaply, and they couldn't make it to the semi-final. So they had that, especially UAE, considering that they beat India, and it's like a historic win for them. And Isha has been someone who has been one of the best batters in associate cricket. It's really I think UAE and Bangladesh were two sides who had a lot of takes from this tournament, although UAE had that first round exit.
Yeah, and Shajin, that sort of brings me to this itself, right? Was there any non-India player who sort of, surprised you a lot? Were you really impressed with them? Because for me, Isha Oza was definitely right up there, right? We've seen her do this consistently, in whatever games her country gets. But again, doing it on this stage and a team and doing it versus a team like India and through the tournament itself, great signs, right, for her. Like, do you have any other non-India players who impressed you?
Yeah, again, Pakistan's slow left arm spinner Anosha Nasir who has performed in the under 19 setup as well. So she was really remarkably good with the ball. Pakistan bowlers were really good, but they didn't have that batting. Although their senior batters disappointed, someone like Omar Suhail has been really disappointing. But Anesha Nasir has been someone who did really well for Pakistan. As far as Sri Lanka, I already talked about Sachin Salah. She again one of the left arm spinners. So it was a really great tournament for left arm spinners. And Bangladesh again, Sanjita Akhtar Meghla along with Fahima Khatun both have played for the senior side. And Fatima Jahan was another left arm spinner who has been really impressive. So it was more of a tournament for all the spinners. So that was Anasha Nasir, Sachin Salah, and Fatima Jahan. Is three left arm spinners are my picks for promising players from other sides.
Yeah, great choices there. And I think, yeah, I know nobody also in our chat going on to point out that Vrinda's sweeps, lofted drives were so effective on these conditions. Did not see that sweep, coming in from others. Just let's take a moment to talk about Vrinda Dinesh, right? The kind of WPL that she had came under a lot of criticism, scrutiny. A lot of people felt, she didn't belong here and all of that. But at least the kind of, tournament that she's had, she's again reminded us that, hey, I come in with that sort of caliber. And those domestic performances that I did, pre-WPL were not fluke. Again, Shajin, like, what were you so pleased to see about Vrinda and just that acceleration, right, in her batting? Great signs.
Yeah, again, Prada is known as someone who is remarkably attacking batter even in domestic cricket. She has been scoring above 100 strike rate in even one day format in the domestic setup. But again, it was interesting and remarkable that she had that maturity to do well. Even in the power play, she has really. It's always in these tournaments, maybe you can play within yourself a little bit, considering that these are also individual performance also count when it comes to the next stage or next time India picks, then they might be looking at these numbers. So it was interesting to see that she didn't compromise on her attacking instincts and still scored at a 176 strike rate on these conditions. And her, yes, nobody points out sweeps and lofted drives are something she has been playing really well. Her offside shots are always incredible and nice to see. She has that lofted cover drive over. Everyone has been talking about that ever since she broke into the scene back in 2020 or 2023. So that was always in, and she took on the paces as well in the power play, and even against spinners she has been really those sweeps were really powerful. It's not like she was sweeping to get off strike, and those sweeps were really powerful. It's something you will have to see how she progresses from here, and maybe she can find another contract with some of the bigger sets going forward in the next year, or maybe she can improve it whenever India play next. Maybe they will travel to England. I think maybe in June, July, maybe they will be traveling to England. So it will be interesting to see what kind of side they will pick for that series if and when that happens. So I will be in the Dinesh progress is something I will be really keeping an eye on.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And had Karnataka, gone on to win versus Railways today, and Vrinda joining their team would have really helped their semi-final aspirations true. But here again, Shajin, let's take a moment to talk about the senior women's one-day trophy itself that's happening, right? We have our semi-finalists in play. We have Delhi taking on Andhra and Chhattisgarh versus Railways itself. Again, talk to us about how the season's been shaping up. Unfortunately, none of the matches have been streamed except now the fag end. We will see at least a few here and there being streamed, which is again from scorecards, from performances itself. Like, what have you made of the tournament and how it's shaping?
Yeah, again, knockouts are the only matches we get to see, so we can't really judge from the scorecards. So normally the performers who has been doing well over the years has done really well. Be it someone like Priya Punia who scored three centuries, Nusrat Praveen for Railways, and Shipra Giri is someone who has been interesting. She scored 200s, including the one in the semi-final. So that's interesting. And today's knock was really quality knock, considering how they had a lot. Three wickets, I think three wickets went really early, and she bat through almost through the innings to score that 120 odd. So it will be interesting. It was interesting to see considering how she moved from UP to Railways and got that opportunity to bat at number three, and she already has that WPL contract as well. And in the only one match she got to play, maybe she is that reserve wicket keeper India have been looking for. The five of the WPL and franchise also can look for that Indian wicketkeeper to have in that their setup. So Shipragiri's performance is really interesting. And a lot of the senior players also done one for instance, Railways still have that services of Prema Yadav, Ekta Bish, and Karnataka had Rajeshwari Gaekwad. And those players made it to the semi-final. Unfortunately for them, Karnataka won't be playing in the semi-final. Again, senior player Asha Shobna had that six for, and Shika Pandey has done really well for Baroda. So senior, maybe all the UP. I am taking the names of all the UP players. They have been doing well once the WPL concluded. Shipragiri has been really impressive, at least in the knock we got to see, and she had another century in the first game. So Shipragiri is someone maybe she can find that second wicketkeeper role in the India squad, and going forward to maybe she will be retained for UP Virus or some of the other WPL side. Is someone they can look at her as a wicketkeeper batter who can really bat.
Yeah, the domestic system has always proven to be a good, happy hunting ground, right, for a lot of these players who don't find themselves in contention for India, and for a lot of youngsters who want to, sort of use that platform to be noticed by the scouts, get WPL gigs, and eventually for Team India as well. I think, yeah, we have a comment coming in that says, can we take a moment to talk about, okay, I think Prema Rawat and Tanisha Singh as well. I mean, both of them, like Prema Rawat, we've
Yeah,
seen, right, her exploits for Uttarakhand itself, and Tanisha Singh as well, the kind of purple patch that she's been in. But Shajin, over to you, your thoughts?
yeah, they are talking about Priya Rawat. I think Priya
Oh,
Rawat and Tanisha Singh both scored century in the last game yesterday. So, yeah, Tanisha Singh has been someone who has been scoring a lot of runs for Delhi. And again, all the only match we got to play was the quarter final yesterday. So, both scored their century. So, it will be interesting to see because Delhi seems to have a lot of top order batters who score a lot of runs, be it Priya Punya, Priya Rawat, and Tanisha Singh. And Shweta Sarath has been scoring run down the order, and Shweta scored 13 and of 15 or 17 balls something yesterday. So, and she had another knock of 76 if I remember correctly. But we can't really judge from the scorecard, and I hope it's almost like India have too many top order batters in all the sides, and how they will be considering all these development tournaments are predominantly T20. Even in the under 19 World Cup is T20 format. It's interesting to see they will be going always going for those attacking batters rather than having top order solid batters. That's why someone like Priya Punya doesn't find any chance for WPL sides, considering people are not really looking for that kind of batter in the WPL setup. At least not more than one batter. So Tanisha Singh is again someone I have been really looking forward to see. But the only chance we got was yesterday, and she's got 100. And it will be interesting to see if she will continue to do well in the semi-final and final.
yeah, fingers crossed that happens. And Priya Punya too, right? To her credit, this season has been amongst the runs. Has I'd say a very healthy strike rate of like 93 or so. So good on her. Hopefully she can keep upping the ante in that way. Unknown Nobody also going on to say that Mithila Vinod's innings was impressive. She improves her batting a little. She can be a good prospect. I quickly want to add with Nikki Prasad, right? Today's knock itself, the 46 that she got of 52 balls. Again, Shajin, like great players emerging from this Karnataka setup, and again augurs well for them going ahead.
Yeah, Mithila Vinod, again, someone who has played for the under 19 India side in that World Cup campaign. She is a bowling all rounder who medium pace all rounder, something we have been looking for. If she can, as he says, if she can improve her batting, this will be add on for India sides or some of the WPL sides. So again, we have a lot of these all rounders, and they don't really get that chance to, especially if they will have to really improve their batting to get that chance, and they won't be getting a lot of opportunities if they don't get that place in their India sides, which are predominantly spin bowling all rounders based. So unfortunately for her, again, you have to keep doing well and hope that you someone notices and they will find that chance in the WPL, maybe at least as a net bowler or to be with one of the sides and improve their game at least put their name up for India squads as well. And Nikki Prasad again, someone Nikki Prasad already has proven herself in the WPL sides, especially in that chase in the this season. And even today, I thought as long as she was there, Kannada had that chance. Unfortunately for her, she got out to that full toss. And if she didn't get out, maybe Kannada would have been in the semi. And what Mithila and Vidiki would have got much more opportunities to impress people when the matches are broadcast. Unfortunately for these players, it's basically like one chance, and if you are knocked out, then you won't be seen at least until the next year when the knockout matches will be the only ones that will be telecasted.
Yeah, I mean, unless they get selected for the Challenger Trophy, and magically those matches are streamed. So most of us, onlookers, spectators, fans, call us what you may, just following scorecards has become the norm in that way. And because we're anyways discussing all things women's cricket, there's a lot of women's cricket happening at the moment. Another comment that comes and says Sri Lanka sealed the series in West Indies 2-0. That's quite interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Kavisha Dilhari is a very promising aspect from Sri Lanka. I mean, for the longest time, right, she's been deemed that X Factor, has been doing really well. But Shajin, again, did you see this coming? Sri Lanka pulling off something like this against West Indies, a team that has the likes of Hayley Matthews, Stephanie Taylor, and like you can go on, right? The list. This is in their home conditions.
Yeah, recently Sri Lanka have been the better side in at least in the one day format against West Indies. They beat West Indies 3-0 at home, and again these are conditions that suited to Sri Lanka as well. Very slow conditions, long square boundaries, and it's not easy to bat. And once you have that 200 plus score, then you are always trying to have that defend that total. And again, someone like Kavisha Dilhari has been really promising. And for Sri Lanka, I think their bowlers have been really doing the senior pros like Karanavira and even Dev maybe Hanga did really well. I am disappointed with how West Indies batted in both games. Maybe they could have hung in a little bit the beat in with Stephanie Taylor in the first game, and that's it. So that's was something we have seen that this with West Indies they have struggled a lot in this. At least in the one day format, they didn't make it to that Cricket World Cup 2025. And Sri Lanka sailing the series is not really surprising for me considering the conditions. Maybe on better batting conditions, if Hayley Matthews got out early in both, and West Indies are really dependent on her to do well. And interestingly, the Deandre Rotten got out obstructing the field in the second game, and that's something that was controversial. But there weren't many watching to discuss that, like what happened with Grace Harris hit wicket. So two unusual dismissals in two consecutive days. Oh, that was interesting. Kavisha Dilhari again. I hope someone notices her and she gets a gig in at least in the 100 or maybe in the WBPL. They have been planning to start in Bangladesh.
Yeah, interesting times in the franchise cricket front too, right? Recently, the names for the list itself, right, for the women's 100 was announced. And even the South Africa versus Pakistan series is going on. The first ODI that did happen, South Africa ended up winning by 37 runs. And yeah, unknown nobody, going on to point out that Sinola Javta's innings was never in my imagination. She played an absolute blinder there. South Africa got to 264 6. We could see like a lot of efforts from Laura Wolfart, Sunil Lees, and all of them. But Sinola Javsa, right? 57 of 38, striking at almost 150. Stuff of dreams, Shajin, there, that knock.
Yeah, mostly milestone matches players have been struggling. Even the great Elise Perry struggled in her 350th match, but Jafta had no issues in the 50th match of her career. She in her ODI career, she scored that maiden hundred, and it was really amazing. It's not like she was slogging; she played a lot of shots through the offside. That's like a bread and butter shot for her, and it was that score probably took the put the score beyond the reach of Pakistan, getting the 261 in 41 overs. Still, Pakistan made a good fist of it, trying to chase it with Aisha Safar scoring that have that knock. But unfortunately, Fatima Sana got out early and they struggled. And as for South Africa, Jafta's innings was really amazing. And Sunelis has been continuing. Sunelis has been doing well for the minutes format, and she missed that 100, but she made up with two wickets. So it was again a lot of cricket to follow, and the timings also we have to keep following. In the daytime, we have following the matches in Australia. Then we are going to Thailand. Then again South Africa. Then again we have to stay awake to watch the matches in West Indies. So it was an interesting day to interesting set of sorts to follow all these matches. And too many cricket is not something we have to complain.
I know as women's cricket fans, we're definitely not complaining one bit, but almost, Shajin, as we reach the end of our conversation itself, the ODI series, Australia India starts tomorrow. The excitement is definitely high there. There was a little bit of reservation among some fans, certain players of, who did well in the T20 side don't feature in this ODI team itself. But again, your expectations for this ODI series, the last time we did play Australia in an ODI series down under, it was quite forgettable in that way. But this time around, we see a much more evolved squad, a slightly different one in that regard, riding from the high of the T20 series win itself, right, in this multi-format series. So yeah, over to you, your expectations and anything you're particularly looking forward to.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how India go from here, considering that they are now the defending champions or the world champions of, at least in this format, they are now the world champions, and they have been taking that confidence in the T20 format. They have taken that confidence with T20 format and won that series too. And it will be interesting to see, considering Australia have been really dominant in this format, ODI format. Even in the World Cup, they lost only that one match against India in the semi-final, and at home they have a remarkable record in ODIs as well. So it will be interesting to see. And most of the time, they have been really struggling against them in the ODI format. Lost 3-0 last time they traveled. Although I can say that by bowling attack is a little bit better, and with all the focus on Healy's retirement, it will be interesting to see how both teams fare. I am hoping that at least India will compete, considering they are now the world champions, and at least 2-1 result, 2-1 result either way will be interesting. So again, going to Brisbane tomorrow, and it will be interesting to see. Last time they scored around 380 or something when they played there, and it will be interesting to see if India can challenge them with their batting and bowling. Bowling will be something I will be really keeping an eye on, considering that they have better bowling attack now. And with all the talk about Healy's retirement, will she be going really hammering downs at the top of the order? And again, Kashfi Gautam is again someone who has come to the side, and it will be interesting to see which combination they will go. And Australia have already announced that Healy won't be keeping, Bethmoni will be keeping in the 11. So it will be interesting to see how Healy take up that challenge and free up herself with only captaincy and top at the top. Again, retirement will be something she will like to finish on a high, and it will be interesting to see if she can take their side back to maybe 3 wins, and they can have that unassailable rate of 8-4. It will be right, and go into the test match with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, definitely very interesting storylines, redemption arcs, and a lot of things on offer in that way. And I think even the media, right, social media too, at large, has been dubbing this the farewell tour for Arisa Healy. So this is the last we get to see of her, in Aussie colours. And playing a home series is definitely special stuff in that way. But yeah, folks, that pretty much does conclude our discussion. We started with the Rising Stars Women's Asia Cup. We went all the way to Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, West Indies, and the Australia versus India, senior side of things. It was always fun, having you guys chip in the comments as well. And thank you, Shajin, for all of your knowledge, insights, and everything. And yeah, folks, we'll be doing a lot of these type of shows. You've seen that we're doing the ICC Men's T20 World Cup show, the IWCT show, and a lot more with your support as well. But yeah, until next time, please stay safe, take care, and let's keep enjoying the cricket. Cheers.
Thank you all the viewers, and thank you, Neha. Bye bye.